Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on new media, today we would be talking on digital storytelling, and for this very discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Anubhuti Yadav. Dr. Anubhuti Yadav is HOD in New Media Department of Indian Institute of Mass Communication. So we would like to welcome our guest Dr. Anubhuti Yadav, and let's begin with our talk on digital storytelling. Hello ma'am, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thank you very much. Today we'll be talking about digital storytelling. Now when we look at storytelling, we've all grown up listening to stories, and the stories are very close to our heart. If we look back and if we think about our childhood, I mean, we always think about those memories of, listening to stories from our grandparents, from our parents, maybe from our neighbors, and some of the teachers we could recollect because, they told excellent stories to all of us. So the stories as a way of communication is very important, and we've grown up listening to that. But now if we look at, this whole concept, with the emergence of new technologies, children are spending a lot of time with the tablets, with the computers. They don't have much time to spend with the grandparents, with the parents, and somehow the concept of telling story is also decreasing. And this is, and in this context, we have to think about that, if the children are consuming messages in a different way, which means that if they are spending a lot of time on tablets, if they are spending a lot of time on desktop or their laptop, so definitely we also need to structure our stories in a different ways. If they are consuming content there, and if we really want that, the content should be prepared to them, it should be available for them. So we have to look at the new media, we have to look at the new medium and the new ways of, making and, those particular stories. So today we'll be talking about, one new way of, packaging of stories, unlike, the stories which we heard in the past during our childhood. Today we'll be discussing about the digital stories. And when we talk about the digital stories, we are talking about, the use of computers and use of computer-based tools in telling those stories. We know nowadays that there are a lot of softwares available which helps you to, package story in a different way. And this is what we are going to talk about, how to create stories and how to create digital stories so that, the children, they consume those particular stories even if they are on their laptop, even if they are spending a lot of time on the web. So as I said, that when we talk about the digital stories, it's the telling stories using computer-based tools. When we discuss about these digital stories, there are different names which are given to these digital stories. If you go to YouTube, online, on web, you would find number of digital stories, and the different names are being given to such stories. The only thing which is common in those stories are that they are actually prepared, developed using computer-based tools. So the one name which is given to the digital story is the digital documentaries. Digital documentaries, as in like you want to document something, you want to make a film or a short film on certain concept or a certain issues. So this name digital documentary is also used for the for digital storytelling. Then we have computer-based narratives, digital essay, electronic memoirs, interactive storytelling. So these are the terms which are used very often when we talk about the digital storytelling. But as I said, the only common thing in all these things is that we are using computer-based tools, we are using certain softwares to develop those stories, and there is a way of packaging of those particular story, and there is a process of doing so. So we'll be talking about the process also, we'll be talking about how to package that story. We'll also discuss about the softwares which are used to put all the elements of stories together. Also another important thing, when we are talking about the digital story, the most important issue is that the duration of the digital story, because if you look at the web, if you look at the way students are consuming messages on web, the attention span is not it's not much, and they spend around 5 minutes and not more than 7 to 8 minutes on one particular web page. So the duration of a digital story is always is 2 to 5, and at the maximum it should be of 7 minutes. And this is how this digital story is different from any documentary or any short film. So there are different types of digital stories. One is the personal narratives. We know that there are number of stories which are lying being untold, which means that we have experienced so many things. We have a lot of stories to tell to the different people when we communicate with them. Especially like when we talk about the interpersonal communication, we always start or we always tend to share certain stories with them. But when it comes to communicate with the masses or with a group of people, we don't do that. So the personal narrative, which means that your own experiences, your own story it comes under the personal narrative. And we visit number of places, we are involved in number of the events. So if we create story out of this, and if the stories are told in the first person, that is termed as the personal narrative. Then second is the historical documentaries. There are number of documentaries which are available, but there are long documentaries. So if we talk about the history, if we are talking about certain events which had happened in the past, these documentaries come under the historical documentaries. And in fact, the students and the teachers who are interested in digital story, I mean, they can also create a very good resource using this concept of digital stories, wherein they can pick up history textbook and try to create digital stories out of the chapters which are there in the history textbook. Then we have the content area stories, which means that the subject based stories, the subject specific stories. There are number of concepts, and if we tell those concepts in the form of story, I think the students will be able to learn in a better way, and the people would relate to that particular thing. So if you have a concept in the political science or maybe in the science, so you pick up those concepts and you try to convert that into a digital story. So that is comes under the content area stories. So these are the three different types of digital stories. One is the personal narrative, second is the historical documentaries, and the third one is the content area stories. Now there are different elements of storytellings, which digital storytelling, which we all must know. The first very important point is the point of view, which means that if we are working on any digital story, when we are working on a script or when we are developing a storyboard, we need to have a point of view, which means that if I am working on any concept, I also need to have certain viewpoint on that particular concept. So that point of view is something that should be reflected in your script, in your storyboard, and in your final story. So when you start working on a digital story, when you identify a one particular concept or a topic for your digital story, the first thing which you should ask yourself as a maker of that particular digital story is that what is your point of view on this particular concept or an event or a one particular topic. Second is a dramatic question, and we have seen number of films, we have seen number of documentaries, and when a documentary or a film starts with a question, we can always make our target audience interested in particular movie or a short film throughout that particular film. Because there is a question and we are building upon that question and we are building upon that particular story, and at the end of it we should be in a position to answer that question. So that question is something which becomes very, very important, and that is something which we need to have in all our digital story. I mean, when you're writing a script, that one question which you plan to answer at the end of your story is something which you should be aware of. The third one is the emotional quotient. Emotional quotient and emotional content is important because if you are making a story, you are making a story for your target audience. We are making a story for the different people, and people should be in a position to connect with that story. They should be in a position to relate with that story, and that is possible only if you have the emotional element in that. You might ask that if you are making a story on a science, how is it possible? But if you look at that particular concept very carefully, if you do your research, you can add some amount of emotional content there in the stories, digital stories, which are based on science also. So emotional content is very important, because the moment we have emotional content, the people will relate to it, they'll identify with that particular story, and they'll be able to watch the entire film which you are offering them. Then the gift of your voice. So when we are talking about the digital story, we are talking about something which you are creating. You have experience in that particular thing, you have experienced that. So, and it can be told very nicely if you use your own voice. So try and use your voice when you are making a digital story. When we are talking about the voiceovers, we've seen that when we look at the mainstream documentaries, or when we look at the cinema, we tend to see that the people have very good voice, and the moment we have to do voiceover for our documentary or for our digital story, many a times we feel that no, we don't have that good voice. But if we talk about the digital story, try and give your voice to your story, because you can tell your story in a better way and better than anyone else. So the gift of your voice is something which you need to use. The power of the soundtrack. Soundtrack is very important. We still remember, certain soundtrack. The moment we hear those soundtrack, we can visualize that particular scene. So the soundtrack is also very important, and getting soundtrack from the different places is something we should be aware of when we are working on a digital story. Because one is that if I'm saying that if you are working on a digital story, it is for 2 to 5 minutes, and it doesn't require the cost. So that means I'm also telling that you need to be using something which is already available on the web, rather than creating your own soundtrack for that particular film. So we'll also talk about how to find such voice and how to find such sounds, so that you can use that as a soundtrack when you start working on your digital story. And the last point is economy. Economy is the most important thing. Many of us have that creative bent of mind. Many of us have those creative ideas. But the moment we start thinking that yes, we need to make a documentary, or if we have to make a film, the first thing which comes to our mind is that do we have that much of resources? Do we have that much of finance available so that we are able to make such movies? But that's the best part of a digital story, because in digital story you are dependent on something which you already have, which means like if you have the collection of images, you can work on that, you can create a digital story out of it. You can also rely on the resources which are openly available on the web. So here the economy is and especially like when we are talking about the finance, I mean it's not that you have to spend a lot of money to create those digital stories. So if you are thinking about any concept, if you have something in mind, you can straight away start working on this. There are ways of doing it, and without spending any money, you will be able to create a digital story. And not only able to create a digital story, you will also be able to share it with the large number of people. So when the people who are making documentaries, the major problem earlier they had was that the mainstream maybe like the television channels or cinema houses, they are not getting a platform to showcase those documentaries. But now with the platforms like YouTube and Vimeo available, you can always share your product with a large number of people. So now coming on to the digital storytelling process, as I said that if we talk about the documentary, if we are talking about cinema, there is a process of working on that. Similarly, when we are talking about a digital story, there is a process for that, and it has number of steps. And if we know and if we follow all these steps, we'll be in a position to make a great digital story. So the step one is come up with an idea and write a proposal. This is something which is important, which means that the idea, we keep thinking about, number of ideas, and we feel that, yeah, this is something which can be converted into a digital story, this can be converted into a short story, and then straight away we start working on that. We should avoid that particular thing, because the moment we have an idea, and to have that clarity, we need to write a proposal for that, which means that if I'm working on a digital story, what would be the title of that, what would be the objective of my digital story, if I'm making a digital story, who will be the target audience for that digital story, who would be the primary target audience, who will be the secondary target audience, what will be my way of dissemination of that digital story, and what would be the time frame if I'm starting working from today. So the entire proposal has to be written. What would be the resources available for me to work on? So the moment you have an idea, for example, if you want to make a digital story on, for example, national new education policy, so the first thing you need to do is that you need to write a proposal, and in the proposal, whatever I've mentioned, that is something which we have to write, even if we do not have to submit that proposal to anyone. That proposal is for ourselves, because that will give a direction to our story, and it will bring about clarity in the entire process. Step 2 is research, explore, and learn. Now, since you've written that particular thing, and you know that, okay, this is the specific topic I'll be working on, and then you try and conduct research on that. You research that particular issue. As I said, that if it is a new education policy, try and research, how many education policy we had till now, what are the features of the new education policy. Try and compare it with what was there in the earlier education policy. How is this new education policy different from the earlier education policy? So you need to conduct a research, you need to explore, you need to talk to the number of people. There are a number of people who have expertise in this particular field, so you need to discuss with them, you need to interview them to try and understand as much as possible about that particular concept. Because if you are making a film on a one particular concept, as a creator, as a producer and the director of that particular film, you need to have complete understanding. And the step 2 is a stage wherein you can have the complete understanding of that particular concept, and try and spend as much as time possible at this stage, because the quality of your work, whether it's identification of resources or the collection of resources or putting them together, everything depends upon the time which you had spent during the step 2, which means the kind of research which you have done, and the quality of your digital story will also depend on the research you have done in the process. Once you have done with you're done with the research and you have explored that particular concept in depth, then comes the third stage, and the third stage is writing script, which means that now after researching, you might be having a lot of content in hand, a lot of interviews. Now you have to select what you are going to use in your digital story, because you are not going to use each and everything. You have to select something from there, and this is the stage wherein you have to start writing your script. So when I'm saying that it's just a 2 to 5 minute digital story, that doesn't mean that it won't require script. Many a times people feel that we have a collection of 10 photographs, and since I have a collection of 10 photographs, I'll put it together, I'll take it to the editing table, and maybe while I'm editing, I'll write the script. Instead of doing that, if you really want to make a film which fulfills the objective which you have actually set out for your digital story, it's always better to write script and then go in for the production, or even like the script will help you what kind of resources which you will be requiring to make this digital story. Then comes the step 4. The step 4 is basically the storyboard and plan. Now we'll be talking about all these steps in detail also. Step 4 is storyboarding, which means that in scripting you just write the text, the content of that particular story. But in the storyboard is also like it has the visual element also, because you want to visualize how your story is going to look like. Once it is converted that into a storyboard, you are in a position to know that this is how this particular story will proceed, and this is how I'm going to use certain maybe like the props which are there in the story, or maybe like the place where you're going to shoot. So this gives you the entire information about how your story or digital story will look like after the production. Once you've made your storyboard, then now it's very easy and for you to collect the resources, because everything is written on paper and you know what kind of resources you want. You know that you want to take one interview. You also know that this is the type of location wherein you would like to shoot. You also know that these are the types of characters which I would like to have in my digital story. So what you have to do is this scripting and storyboarding will help you a lot in gathering those resources. So when I'm saying talking about this step 5, there are 2 ways of doing it. One is that you can gather resources, and the second one, you can create your own resources. It depends upon what you already have. You might have a lot of stuff in your repository or in your folders which are there lying there in your computer, and most of the time we have a lot of images which are lying there in our folders on our desktop which are lying unused. So that is something which you can use, something which you have already created. Or maybe like what you can do is you can gather some resources which are already available on the web. In the previous lectures we talked about the Creative Commons, and we talked about what are the different licenses, and if the resources are available and released under those licenses, you can use those resources as a resource for your digital story. So every time you do not have to create something new. You can always build upon the resources which are already available. Then you have the step 6 is that you have all the resources now. You have to put them together, which means that in this particular stage you'll be working on some software which will allow you to put all these resources. Could be image, could be interview, could be any video. So you'll put them all together with the voiceover to create that particular story. Step 7 is share. Now the digital story which you have created, it's not only for your consumption. Obviously if you have created a story, you would like to share it with number of people. You can share it on YouTube, you can share it on Vimeo. You can have, if you don't want to go public at that point of time, and if you feel that there might be chances that it requires some sort of revision, so what you can do is that you can share it with your friends, your colleagues, and you can take their feedback. And this is the last stage, which means that taking feedback from the people with whom we are sharing our film. Even like if you're uploading it on YouTube, there will a lot of feedback come, but at that point of time obviously you're not going to revise that. But if you are sharing it with your friends, your colleagues, before you upload it on the YouTube and Vimeo, it will help you to revise, or it will help you to modify your digital story. So these are the different steps, which means like there are 8 steps when we are talking about the process of creating digital storytelling process. And if you follow all these process, if you go through all these process and the steps, the chances are that you'll come out with an excellent digital story. Now coming on to the specific aspect of it, which means one is the script, which is actually a backbone of any digital story. And writing a script is an art, but if you're working on a digital story, you can always try and write as many stories as possible, take the feedback from people, and you can improve upon that. But when you write a script for a digital story, the first thing is that keep it simple and and focused. See, in digital story, we do not have luxury of time, which means that it's not something which will go on for 30 minutes or 1 hour or 3 hours. So which means that whatever the story is, whatever the concept is, you have to tell that concept or a story in 2 to 5 minutes. So that is something you have to keep in mind. We have to keep it simple and focused. Second is make it personal. Personal as in, like, if you make it personal, then the target audience will relate to it. They'll identify with that particular story. Try and give examples so that the target audience will relate to that particular story. Third, the stage is know the story arc. Now, when you start working on a story, and if you see an arc here, there is a beginning of a story, there is a middle of a story, and there is an end of a story. Any script is divided into these 3 parts, and we spend a lot of time from the beginning to middle because we have to build upon that particular concept. We have to make people understand that concept, and middle is like a climax, which means that after that you have to think of winding up of your story. So the time which you should take from the beginning to middle has to be the longest, and after the middle, which means after you have explained one particular concept and you have reached that climax, don't take much time in winding up your story. This is the mistake what happens in many of the documentaries which we have seen. People take a lot of time, and at one point of time we realize that we have reached that climax, and after that we feel that yes, it is going to end now, but what happens that the story keeps on keeps going on, and which means even after climax there is a story, and many a times there are different levels. At every time we think that it's going to end, then again it starts, and this way the story will lose its target audience. So once you have reached that climax point, the middle point, it's better to finish that story as soon as possible. Fourth point is, when we are writing our script, is to visualize our story, right? And since we have written the script, and that's the best part of the digital storytelling, because the entire control is on us. It's we who came up with the idea, it's we who has written this script, it's we who have prepared the storyboard. So we'll be able to visualize our story in a much better way. So you have to visualize your story, and then start grafting now, which means then you have to sit and start working on the each and every aspect of your script. And then the last is participate in a story circle. See, once you have prepared the product, once it is a final product, and once you have shared it with large number of people, at that point of time when the feedback comes, it's for you like how you have performed and how good digital story you have made. You won't be able to make much changes in that. But this is the stage wherein you can take the feedback from the people, and you can try and incorporate those particular feedback by participating in a story circle. Story circle is basically when you have created a script. After that, you place that script in front of 7-8 people. You ask them to read that particular script and give you the feedback, and based on that feedback you try and revise your script. So it is very important when you are making a script, please do participate in a story circle, share it with the number of people, because this is the stage wherein you can make certain changes, and after that it will be difficult for you to make any changes in your story as far as the storyline is concerned. Yes, at the time of editing, you can place one image here and there. That is something which you can do and you have control of while you are editing that particular thing. But once when we are talking about the story and the flow of the content, this is the stage wherein you should freeze your script after having thorough discussion and after getting feedback from the people. Now, the next stage is storyboard. As I said, that the storyboard is actually a visual representation of your script, which means that here you need to have the text also, the script also, which means your voiceover, and at the same time you need to have the visuals also depicting what kind of scene would you like to have in your digital story. So this is a sample of one of the digital storyboard, wherein you need to have the title, you need to have what kind of shot would you like to have, you need to have the description, dialogue, everything should be there in that particular storyboard. Now, there are certain tips for creating a storyboard, which means that first is make sure your storyboard progression is logical and coherent. And obviously, it's coming out from your script, so it has to be logical, it has to be coherent. Using an attention grabber at the beginning of your story can set the tone and get your audience interesting. This attention grabber is something which can make your story very, very interesting, and this attention grabber should be used at the very beginning of your story. I mean, it could be a question. You can always start, your digital story with a big question, and as we discussed, that there has to be one dramatic question, and we should work on story in such a way that we are finding answer to that question, and at the end of the digital story we are offering a solution and answer to that question. It could be a scenario. You can talk about one particular scenario, one particular event. You can start with that particular thing. You can also start with an interesting image, and you can also start with a game. There are a number of ways of having this attention grabbing when you start your digital story. So but the main point is that the moment you start your storyboard, somewhere you should attract the attention of your target audience. It should not that your story or your digital story, you start narrating something, and the moment it's the 1 minute is over, the people will move away from your digital story. So within 1 minute you need to offer some attention grabber. It could be in a form of a question, it could be in a form of some event, it could be in a form of maybe a joke, it could be anything, but you have to start your digital story that way. Then when creating a storyboard, the visual parts of the frame should be kept simple, and the image in each frame should be one that best describes the action taking place or concept being explained. The images can be simple sketches or images from your own resources or found on the web. Now, when it comes to working on a storyboard, a lot of people have this question that, see, we are not very good at drawing. So how can we prepare a storyboard? Now, the storyboard, it gives you a direction on, or basically gives you an idea how your story is going to look like. It's basically you are visualizing your story, and it's for yourself. I mean, it's not doing it for other, and it's not going to be shared with your target audience later on. So you don't have to be very good at drawing, but even if it is a small caricature, even if it is a line drawing, it should depict what kind of scene would you like to have in your digital story. And you can use your own sketches, you can use something which is already available on the web. It's not necessary that every time you have to create something of your own. And then there is software also, which means you can use this particular software to create your own storyboard. And this is called digital storyboard, that software. You can create your storyboard using this, which means that if you go to this particular software, you'll have a lot of images there. A lot of scenes are already available there. A lot of props are available. It will give you, the template of preparing a storyboard. So there are a lot of features which are available in this software, and this is available free of cost for the beginners, for the students, or for the teachers, and those who want to, work on the professional storyboards. Yes, you have to pay for that. Now, I have a very small video to show you regarding this storyboard, that software. So let's watch this video.
With Storyboard that is simple and fun with our intuitive drag and drop interface. To get you started, we're going to create a basic storyboard about my morning. First, select the scene you would like to add. We have hundreds of scenes organized in categories like around town, home, school, and even historical. Since this is about my morning, I'm going to start by adding a scene from the home category, a basic bathroom. Notice how the scene automatically fills the entire cell? This means no fussing with lining up edges. Now, let's add a character. We have hundreds of characters to choose from. I'm going to choose this female character here. First thing I'm going to do is color her using the color selector. There are many options for hair, eye, and skin color in pre-made palettes, but you also have the option to use the complete color selection tool for even more customization. Now that she's all colored, I can move on to posing her. We offer quick insta poses, like speaking, angry, and walking, and various others. Or for more detailed posing, you can go on Edit Pose and manipulate the character more in depth. In our character poser, you can change lots of things. For head, you can tilt from left to right. For the expression, you can choose a set of eyes and mouth that shows the emotion you want. For arms, choose the arms to hold an item or show a particular pose. Lastly, for legs, you can choose legs for standing, walking, sitting, or even nervousness. Hovering your mouse over the poses in the menu will give you some great use suggestions. Since my character is going to be brushing her teeth in the mirror, I'm going to pose her in the 3/4 angle, with her arms up and her head tilted down slightly. Now this action seems a little lacking. What we need is a prop. Props and images can be easily searched for and found using our search bar. There are tens of thousands of images to search for so that you can find the perfect item. I'm in need of a toothbrush, so I enter toothbrush into the search bar and select one that I like from the given options. I can click and drag it into the scene, and now change the size and orientation by using the transform box and flip tool. Now that I am all set with that, it's time to add text. To do this, I can click on the Textables tab and select either the freeform text tool or a word bubble of my choosing. I like this one in particular. After pulling it into the scene, you can see that you now have the option to type, change the font, and text size. Play around with these options to get the right feel for your storyboard. Now I'm going to complete my storyboard by dragging and dropping scenes and characters that will tell my story. In the second scene, my character is on a subway. Instead of having to find her again in the character directory, I'm going to copy her. I can now pose her to hold onto the rail or pose her to sit down. I will add additional characters in the background to give the cell a nice full feeling. In the final panel, I'm going with a work scene. I can sit my character in the chair. However, the computer screen looks a bit bare, so how about we explore the Upload feature to add a custom graphic. Clicking the Upload button will bring me to my computer, where I can select an image to upload to my storyboard. Storyboard that supports JPEGs, PNGs, GIFs, and bitmaps. Let's go with this nice Storyboard that logo. Once it's uploaded, it will show up in the image bank of uploaded files. Since my image is uploaded, I can grab it and place it on the computer screen in my scene. Now I'm going to save my storyboard. Once you click the Save button, this little save dialog will pop up, and you can add your storyboard's title and description. I'm naming mine My Day. And there you have it, a completed storyboard, saved to mine or your account. Go ahead and explore all that Storyboard that has to offer and make some great storyboards. Thanks for watching.
So this was a video on digital storytelling, and you know that it's not difficult to make a storyboard. You have a lot of characters available. Even if you want to change the emotions and on those particular characters, you're in a position to do that. So this is a tool which you can explore. It's easy to use. So everything is available for you. So depending on your script, you have to create the storyboard. Now another part was gathering resources, and as I said that you can create your resources and you can gather your resources, and the resources could be all these resources: audio, video, infographic, text, images, data sets, reports, interviews. So there are a number of resources which you can use in your digital story. But at the same time, you can also get the resources which are openly available on web. This is something which we have already discussed about. There is a lecture which is already on YouTube on the open resources in journalism. So you'll get to know more about the open resources if you have not seen that particular lecture. But just to give you a brief on what open resources are, which means that the resources which are openly available, you don't have to give any license fees or royalty fees for that. And second is that any resource which you can use, reuse, edit, remix without asking for the permission from the copyright holder. So that makes resource an open resource. And why for the filmmakers, we know that one is that when they are releasing their work, if you have created something, for example, even if you have created a storyboard or if you have created a digital story, you can release it under Creative Commons so that the other people can build upon that particular thing. And obviously, like when they'll build upon that particular resource, they'll give credit to you. And the second is you can choose the Creative Commons resources which are already available, and you can put them together to create your own digital story. So I won't go into like what the Creative Commons licenses are, because that is something which we have already discussed. But yes, once again, how to locate those resources. We have this Creative Commons search engine. Then for audio resources, we have CC Mixter, we have Jamendo, Free Music Archive is another platform, Free Sound. For image resources, you have Free Images, Open Photo, Free Media Go, Stock Vault. Video resources, you have Wikimedia Commons, you have YouTube. Internet Archive also has a lot of resources, both audio and video, and it also has text also. Then you have World Clips, then Stock Video. Another very important tool which is available for us to work on a digital story, and especially I'm talking about the stage and the step wherein you have to put together all those resources which you have gathered or created, that is called Movely. And in Movely, we actually create moves, and I'll just show you briefly like how we work on this. This is the dashboard of the Movely software, and from here you can add the new move, which means that the new movie if you want to work on, and this is also freely available for you to use. When you create a new move, you just have to give a title to that move, and then you can describe, give the description of that particular movie. And when I'm saying move, I'm talking about the digital story. And once you have done that, you'll reach on to this dashboard, which means that there are number of images which are already available in the library. You can drag those images on your work area, and you can start working on your digital story. So what you can do is you can have something which is already available here, and at the same time you can also upload your own images. If you have created your own stuff, you can upload that also, but you can also make use of the images which are already available here. And this is like how you place it on the timeline. And another software which is available is the vVideo. This is also a very nice software which can be used to create good videos, good digital stories. That is something which you can explore. Also, I have a video on there is another tool which is called Powtoon, which means that especially those who are working in the field of science, and there you have a lot of abstract things, and you want to do a lot of animation. For that also there is a tool available, because usually people say that okay, we want to make a digital story, but we would like to have some animated stuff there. So there is one software which is called Powtoon. So and I have a video for that, so let's watch that particular video, how to create animated presentation on Powtoon.
An amazing presentation. You take your graphs, add some clip art, and spice the whole thing up with some fancy transitions. But somehow, it doesn't always have the desired effect. So one day you come across one of those super cool promotional cartoons and you think to yourself, wow, something like that would definitely catch my client's attention. But then you find out that it costs like $1 gazillion to make. So you start scouring the web for a tool that can create extraordinary presentations for free. It's just that nothing out there is just quite the thing you're looking for. This tool just moves pictures around, and this one swivels so much you get seasick. And to operate this one, you have to be a rocket scientist. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a tool that allows you to create professional-looking animated presentations and cartoon-style videos just by dragging and dropping stuff onto a page? Well, now there is. Powtoon is a new tool that is so simple and intuitive, it allows anyone who ever used PowerPoint or Keynote to easily evolve their presentation to awesomeness. Powtoon contains themes of animated characters and crops which you can just drag and drop onto your slide and create eye-catching and fun presentations that can be presented in person or turned into animated videos with the click of a button to be shared on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Now your presentations will definitely keep your audience hooked. Powtoon brings awesomeness to your presentation.
Created using Powtoon.
So this was another tool, and as I said that there are number of tools available, but it's just that you need to explore those tools. If you have worked on PowerPoint presentation, then you can work on these tools as well. It's just that you need to spend some time with those tools. In fact, like if I talk about the Powtoon and Movely, if you actually spend 2 hours with these tools, you'll be in a position to make good digital story. But the only condition is that you have to follow all the 8 steps which we have already discussed. And if you are interested in making digital stories and using this lecture or maybe like these tools, if you are able to make certain digital stories, so please do share with us. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. And dear friends, as Dr. Anubhati Yadav herself said that you can share with us what all you would be creating in future. So you can mail us at info.cc@nic.in. We would be meeting again very soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.